Hey everyone, this is Haley and Zachary Morris and my husband Zach, and we're going to go out into the farm today and talk to you about how we save money on raising your own meat. We're going to talk about our sheep a little bit, and also a little bit about pasture-raised poultry probably. And yeah, so just before you get too judgy, it's winter time, so the farm looks like crap, but this is a little farm life.
So we are going to come out here and check out the pasture and our little flock of sheep that we have. Going to kind of explain why we raise our own meat, kind of the benefits of that, and how we raise our meat, and also some of the different things that we've done to the land here to make it more resilient. So actually, let's you want to open we'll open the gate here.
Okay. Sheep. Ezra's first word was chicken, so naturally she knows all the farm animal names. Chickens.
So this is our little flock of sheep here. We have we got one ram, that's the guy with the black head there. We got 3 ewes, and they are a hair breed, so we don't have to shave their wool off, which is just a kind of a pain in the butt. And we don't really make clothes out of wool, even though that'd be cool if we did, but it's just one less thing we have to do. They're super low maintenance. They just basically do really good on eating whatever's out in the pasture. So we raise our own meat. Let's walk this way so we can check it out. We raise our own meat. For one, it's we are blessed to have the land to do it on, and really, if you have land, to me, it makes a lot more sense to turn it into something that is you get some sort of benefit out of it other than having a pretty lawn. To me, a lawn doesn't make a lot of sense because it's just something to maintain and it's a chore. Why not turn that lawn into meat and really healthy food for your family? So we have this small pasture here where we keep our sheep. We kind of rotate them around to get the most out of the land. I'm kind of bouncing around here. Let me stay on topic. So we another benefit of raising our own meat is we know where it comes from. We know what they're eating. You don't always know that in the grocery store. I mean, you can do the best you can if you're buying from a supermarket. I mean, you're probably better off buying the grass-fed, or what's labeled grass-fed and what's labeled organic. But there's a lot of places where big companies like that can bend the rules to say grass-fed or to say pasture-raised. I mean, all pretty much an animal has to do is eat a blade of grass, and you can call it grass-fed. Just have it a little bit of access to pasture, you can call it pasture-raised. Just basically not feed it any sort of banned substances or synthetic chemicals, and you can call it organic, and it can still live in a feedlot eating tons and tons of grain, which is not ideal for or a grazing animal like a sheep or a cow. So the next best thing, if you don't have your own land to raise your animals like this, is to find your local farmers, and more often than not, these farmers that are doing it right are more than happy to show you that they're doing it right. They're gonna, I mean, most people love showing off their farm if they're very if they're proud of what they're doing. If you see a farm that says no people allowed or something like that, that probably means they don't want you to see what's going on there. So definitely the farms that are more they're willing to show you, the farms that are doing it right, raising their animal not just on pasture, but anybody can throw animals out on a pasture, and that's easy. But rotationally grazing them is the best thing for the animals and for the land. For one, you're getting that's kind of how these animals move through nature. If you were to take like the equivalent to a sheep, but around this area a few hundred years ago, would have been an antelope if we had some pasture, or if we had some wide open grasslands here. So these animals were always moving through nature. They were never staying in one spot for too long. That allowed the grass to recover after it had been grazed, and it gave the land a certain amount of disturbance that paradoxically was actually good for the land. It might seem like it might be bad to trample the grass, but that's actually a good thing for nature. If you don't have the animals trampling the grass and pruning it, it'll grow up really tall. And then if you've ever seen a field that's basically gone to fallow, as we say, or there's not any animals out there, the dead grass just stands, and then there's not new growth that's able to happen. So it benefits the grass by allowing it to keep growing back and staying vigorous when you disturb the land and then you move them away. And then also it's good for the animals because they're constantly getting the highest quality grass and forage that they can get. If they're staying in one spot, they're going to be nibbling at the basically breadcrumbs, so to speak. They're going to be gnawing close to the ground, and that's also going to increase the chances of them getting parasites. And then if you want to pan over here to where the chickens are, that's actually another benefit. Another thing that's going to happen in nature is these birds are naturally going to follow these grazing animals, and they're going to be cleaning up a lot of the parasites that the sheep may or may not have, or maybe. For instance, if there's a sheep with a worm problem, these chickens have a good enough eye where they can look at that manure pile that a sheep left, or a cow, or whatever the case may be, and they can actually pick out the larvae and the worms left behind, so that parasite is not able to repropagate, and the next time the sheep come by, it's going to be it's not going to be an environment where they're going to be prone to getting the parasites again.
So you'd say that raising animals right makes it where farms don't need antibiotics and hormones, and so you can avoid that for the most part.
Oh yeah, definitely, because if you think of it this way, like a wild herding animals, like a wild herd of buffalo, you don't see these animals really getting sick. They're very healthy and vigorous. I mean, they're moving miles and miles each day. I mean, even though our animals aren't moving miles and miles each day, I mean, they are very healthy. They rarely require, I should say, any sort of medication or antibiotics compared to a confined animal situation, or a situation where the animals aren't eating their natural diet. Like the sheep and the cows eating the grains, it creates a system in their, or a situation in their gut biome where they are, it's more acidic. It creates a more acidic environment, and these bacteria that are naturally in their gut, they actually adapt to the acidity, and they become stronger and more harmful. They actually become harmful instead of helpful, especially when these manures are spread onto to fields for fertilizer and things like that. That's why you see a lot of the problems with E. coli in food today is one, antibiotic resistance. These bacteria or these different pathogens are becoming stronger and stronger are more resistant, and it's also an unnatural animal diet that they're getting. They're not getting that full spectrum of nutrients that they would normally be getting out here on a pasture, or out in a grassland, or if it's a browsing animal that likes to eat different bushes and shrubs. They're not getting all those nutrients that they would be getting.
Right, and this stuff transcends to our own diet. So if you have unhealthy animals, you're also going to be an unhealthy person, because lots of things change, like omega-6s and 3s ratios, and there's just a lot of things that go on nutritionally with the sheep that also go on nutritionally with us. So it's very important.
Yeah, if you think about it this way, like it's kind of a known fact that it's a known fact that if you're eating fresh greens, a lot of fresh greens in your diet, that's very beneficial to your health. Well, if you take an animal like a chicken or a hog and you put it in an environment where it's not able to get those fresh greens, and they love fresh greens, by the way. Anybody who's ever seen a hog out here in a pasture, or a chicken, they are just constantly getting their salad out here, because they know it's good for them. I mean, even if you have a bucket of grain right beside, they're going to get that bucket of grain, but then they're going to go out and they're going to get all the greens they can get, because it's just a good thing for all animals, really, except if you're a pure carnivore, which we're not.
Right. So let's check out these swales. This is one of the things that Zach was really into getting done when we got here, and so I'm gonna let him explain kind of why we integrated these into our pasture here. So
right now Indiana is basically underwater.
Yeah.
It's been raining for the past like 3 or 4 days, pretty hard, and there's nothing on all these corn and soybean fields out here to be letting the water percolate into the soil. So what's happening is we're getting the water is just being expedited off of the land as fast as possible. We don't have the crops on the field right now. We don't, like, normally this area would be covered in trees. This area wants to be a forest. So it would just be soaking all that water in. It would be a buffer against any sort of flash floods. But now we have the opposite. We have these fields, and not only do they not have anything, or are they completely bare right now, but they're also tiled. That's kind of a really popular thing right now. Everybody's tiling their fields. That's kind of a whole nother topic. It's kind of a result of the soil compaction that's going on there. But it's just the water's being expedited off even faster, and what you're creating is a super brittle environment where if we get any sort of dry period, it's really, really dry, and then if you get any sort of extended rain, then it's really, really wet. And then there's like no in between. It's just this either really like super wet or super dry. It's what we would call ecologically, it's very brittle. We're actually trying to do the opposite. We want to actually keep our water, and even though we're not doing it perfectly as far as like making this area a forest like it wants to be, since we're raising sheep on it, we're doing the best we can by creating a good grassland environment, and we're also incorporating these natural entrapments for water. So instead of us expediting our water off of our land, we're keeping it. So I should explain what a swale is now. A swale is it's a ditch that instead of it is trying to move water away, it actually holds the water. It's perfectly level. So sometimes when we get a lot of rain, in fact, we probably would have been out here earlier, you would actually have seen this full of water, or not full of water, but the bottom of it would have had water in it. And so what we're doing, instead of expediting the water off our land, is the water is going downhill, and then it has to stop right here because there's nowhere else for it to go. And then what that causes the water to do is actually infiltrate into the ground, and it actually is going to replenish our aquifers. like historically is a normal thing. And it allows us to buffer our land here against any sort of crazy weather patterns that like we tend to have a lot these days. So you know, instead of us flushing this water away, we're holding it, and everything behind this swale right here is this water is soaking into the ground, and it's actually the water or the soil is staying more moist throughout the dry periods. So instead of it being super dry, at least the grass has a chance to retain some moisture. And this type of farming practices that we're doing naturally increases the soil's sponginess, I guess you could say. It's all about soil carbon and holding onto our water, just making the land naturally more vigorous.
Yeah, more nutritious for our sheep.
Yep, that's right.
So yeah, so there you go. There's some grass-fed farming for you, and how it kind of relates to our health. And yeah, so we save a lot of money growing our own meat. So if you're able to do that, then that'd be great for you. And we do gardening as well, and Zach works at a produce farm. So that's kind of how we eat a lot healthier for a lot cheaper. So is there anything else you want to say, Zach?
It's not as hard as you think it is. I mean, just they have, even if you didn't put up you know, like the fencing like that we have right now, if you don't already have that, if you have it, great. If you don't, there's portable fencing options where you can make it hot so the animal are electrified so the animals can't escape, and it's really not that hard. It's not as hard as you think. And it's worth it. It's worth knowing when you have your own food on your table